Hey everyone, welcome to the online program of Amrita IAS Academy. My name is CV Joy, and as part of our monthly current affairs MCQ series, this is part 5A of July 2020. So without any delay, we'll go into the questions. First question, consider the following statements about the Missile Technology Control Regime or the MTCR. First one, it is a multilateral export control regime that curbs the spread of unmanned delivery systems for nuclear weapons. 2. All UN members except for India, Pakistan, North Korea and Israel are party to this regime. 3. Being a treaty, it imposes legally binding obligations on members. Select the correct answer using the given below code. Option A 1 and 2 only, option B 1 only, option C 2 and 3 only, and option D 3 only. So looking at this, the major demand of this question is about the Missile Technology Control Regime, to which India has become a member recently, and it was there in the news cycles consistently over a period of time. So India is actually a member of MTCR. Taking that into account, let us remove the second statement from this options. If you remove the second statement, you are left with option B 1 only and option D 3 only. So looking at this, 3 only is being a treaty, it imposes legally binding obligations on members. MTCR is just a missile technology control regime, it does not impose legally binding obligations, and therefore the third statement is also wrong. So it is only a multilateral export control regime that curbs the spread of unmanned delivery systems for nuclear weapons. So definitely I can say that the third statement is also not wrong, is wrong, because it has the fact of legally binding in it. I'd like to go with the option A 1 only, that is the one only option, which is option B. Now let's look at the explanation. The answer is B. Statement 1 is correct because the MTCR is a multilateral export control regime, which is an informal political understanding among 35 member states that seek to limit the proliferation of missiles and missile technology. It was created in order to curb the spread of unmanned delivery systems for nuclear weapons, specifically delivery systems that could carry a payload of 500 kg for a distance of 300 km. The second statement is not correct because all UN members except for India, Pakistan, North Korea and Israel are party to the Treaty of Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, but India formally applied for the membership for the MTCR in June 2015. The India, Pakistan, North Korea and Israel are not, this statement is not with regards to MTCR, but it's regard to the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons or the NPT treaty. It is regards to the NPT treaty. That is the second statement. This question is actually about the MTCR. India has actually applied for membership to the MTCR in June 2015, and with active support from Russia, France and the US, India became a member on 27th of June 2016. So the second statement is wrong. The third statement, MTCR is not a treaty and neither does it impose any legally binding obligations on its partners or members. Rather, it's just a political understanding among states that seek to limit the proliferation of missiles and missile technology. So understand what is the MTCR. Hope you all understood the explanation. We'll be going for the next question. Consider the following statements about Unnat Bharat Abhiyan or the UBA. First statement is a joint initiative of Ministry of Rural Development and Ministry of Human Resources and Development. 2. It aims to engage the faculty and students of higher educational institutions or HEIs in identifying development issues in rural areas and finding sustainable solutions for the same. 3. It is a part of the Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana. Which of the above mentioned statements are correct? A 1 and 2 only, B 2 only, C 1 and 3 only, and D 3 only. So looking at this, let's take the first statement. It is a joint initiative of Ministry of Rural Development and Ministry of Human Resource and Development. We'll be learning about the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. It's an important current affair, it's an important scheme. We'll be learning about this. So definitely, while we are learning about the scheme, we'll be understanding the ministry which is involved in this. And in this, the Ministry of Rural Development does not play a important role, and rather it's an initiative of the Ministry of Human Resource and Development. So the first statement is wrong. Remove the first statement, you are left with two options, option B 2 only and option D 3 only. We managed to make a 50-50 elimination. Now we just need to find whether it's the second statement or the third statement which is right. So look at the third statement. It is a part of the Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana. So now in the previous videos we already discussed about the Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana, and that is specifically there is no mention of the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan under the Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana, and it's a standalone scheme. It's an independent scheme. So we can say the third statement is also right. We are just left with the second statement, and there is an option known as a 2 only, which is the option B. So let's choose option B as the answer. Let's look at the explanation. The answer is B. Statement 1 is not correct because Unnat Bharat Abhiyan or UBA is an initiative by Ministry of Human Resource Development which aims to link the HEI with at least 5 villages so that they can contribute to the economic and social betterment of these communities using their knowledge base. UBA is inspired by the vision of transformational change in rural development by leveraging knowledge institutions to help build the architecture of an inclusive India. It aims to create a virtuous cycle between society and an inclusive university system, with the latter providing knowledge-based practices for emerging livelihoods and to upgrade the capabilities of both the public and the private sectors. That is the idea behind the first statement. And what is the demand of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan or its scope? The second statement is correct because one of the main objectives of UBA is to engage the faculty and students of higher educational institutions in identifying development issues in rural areas and finding sustainable solutions for them. Identifying and selecting existing innovative technologies, enable customization of technologies, devise implementation method for innovative solutions as required by the people, and to allow HEIs to contribute to devising systems for smooth implementation of various government programs. These are the major objectives of the UBA mission, UBA scheme. And the third statement is not correct because it is a rather an independent program and is nowhere related with Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana. So that is the explanation for this question. Let's go for the next question. In context of the Chambel River, consider the following statements. It is a tributary of the Yamuna River. Second statement, it originates from the Satpura range in Maharashtra. 3. It is a natural habitat for the critically endangered gharial. Choose the correct code. Option A 1 and 2 only, option B 2 only, option C 1 and 3 only, and option D 3 only. So talking about the Chambel River, as part of your geography syllabus for your prelims and mains, you will be learning about the major rivers of India, and one among them is the river of Yamuna. And while learning about the Yamuna River, you will know that one of the major tributaries of Yamuna is the river Chambel. So taking that into account, I can say the first statement is right. So looking at the first statement, I can say it's option A 1 and 2 only, and option C 1 and 3 only, which is the only possibilities. So looking at that, either the second statement is right or the third statement is right. That is the only thing. So again, it's a 50-50 chance. It originates from the Satpura range in Maharashtra. One may think it is very similar. It originates from that area nearby if you learn about the geographical map or look at the map. But the third statement is absolutely right because it is one of the very few natural habitats for the critically endangered gharial crocodile in India. So Chambel River is actually famous for being the natural habitat for the gharial crocodile. And taking that only one statement can be correct, I would go with option C 1 and 3 only. Now let's look at the explanation. The answer is C. Statement 1 is correct because the Chambel River is a tributary of the Yamuna River in central India and thus forms a part of the greater Gangetic drainage basin. The second statement is not correct because Chambel originates at Janapao south of Mo town near Manpur, Indore, on the south slope of the Vindhya range in Madhya Pradesh, not the Satpura range. The third statement is correct because the National Chambel Sanctuary, also called the National Chambel Gharial Wildlife Sanctuary, is a tri-state protected area in northern India for the protection of the critically endangered gharial, the red-crowned roof turtle, and the endangered Ganges River dolphin. The Chambel River is the natural habitat of the critically endangered gharial, and the government is actually undertaking captive breeding program under the Gharial Conservation Project. So understand the specialities of the Chambel River, where it originates from, and it's a tributary of the Yamuna. So that is the explanation for the river Chambel. We'll go for the next question. Consider the following statements. India's foreign direct investment or the FDI policy of 2020 requires any investment from a country that shares a border with India to proceed through the government. 2. The entry or regulation of a FDI into a country is governed by the World Trade Organization or the WTO. Select the correct answer using the given below code. Option A 1 only, option B 2 only, option C both 1 and 2, and option D none of the above. So looking at this, it talks about a specific policy of India, or more specifically the foreign direct investment or the FDI policy of India of 2020, where it requires investment from a country that shares a border with India to go through the government. So this policy was recently in the news because this was framed with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic and to prevent other countries or other businessmen from utilizing the pandemic to gain illicit gains. So that was the idea behind framing this policy, and one of the major requirement under this policy was that any investment from a country that shares a border with India has to proceed through the government. So the first statement is right. The entry or regulation of FDI into a country is governed by the WTO. That is wrong because the WTO does not interfere into each country's individual FDI policy regime, but rather it just governs the entire world trade, but it does not look into a specific country's things. So we can definitely say that the World Trade Organization is not involved in this. So I would go with the answer that option A 1 only is to be the right answer. Now let's look at the explanation. The answer is A. India's new FDI policy 2020 now requires any investment from a country that shares a border with India to proceed through the government. Even transferring ownership of any existing or future FDI to such an entity would require government approval. This is done actually to curb the possibility of predatory foreign investment exploiting the financial distress of COVID-19 hit Indian companies. Whereas the second statement is not correct because the entry or regulation of FDI into a country is not governed by the World Trade Organization. The multilateral WTO agreements mainly regulate disciplines on trade in goods and services and intellectual property. So that is the explanation for this question. I hope you are all clear about this. Let's go for the next question. Consider the following statements about the Nagarjuna Sagar Sri Shailam Tiger Reserve or the NSTR. Statement 1. It is the largest tiger reserve in India. 2. The Krishna River cuts the basin of this reserve. 3. It is mostly spread over the area of Nilgiri Hills. Select the correct answer using the given below code. Option A 1 only, option B 1 and 2 only, option C 2 and 3 only, and option D 3 only. So looking at this, Nagarjuna Sagar Sri Shailam Tiger Reserve, it is the largest tiger reserve in India. We'll be learning about these tiger reserves. We'll be learning about these major biosphere reserves and elephant reserves as part of our environment subjects in your prelims and mains preparation for your civil services examination. So definitely you learn that the Krishna River actually passes through the Nagarjuna Sagar Sri Shailam Tiger Reserve, and it is the largest tiger reserve in India. You will be also learning that it is not spread over the area of Nilgiri Hills, but rather it's on the other side. It's more spread over the area of the Nallamala Hills. So it does not come as part of the Western Ghats. So I can say that the third statement is wrong. Remove the third statement. You are left with two options, option A 1 only and option B 1 and 2 only. Obviously the second statement is true because the Krishna River does pass through the NSTR. Taking that into account, I'd say the answer is option B 1 and 2 only. Now let's look at the explanation. The answer is B. Nagarjuna Sagar Sri Shailam Tiger Reserve is the largest tiger reserve in India. The total area is 3,728 square kilometer, whereas the core area is nearly 1,200 square kilometer. It is the largest tiger reserve forest in India. And the second statement is correct because it cuts the Krishna River cuts the basin of this reserve. But the third statement is not correct because it mainly covers the area of the Nallamala Hills. So that is the explanation for this question. Let's go for the next question. Question number 6. Consider the following statements about the currency swap. 1. It is a transaction in which two parties exchange an equivalent amount of money with each other but in different currencies. 2. The parties loaning money to each other repay the amounts in future at a specified date and exchange rate. 3. It is used to borrow foreign exchange at lower interest rate. So currency swap is a very important part of our economy preparation while preparing for the civil services. Let's look at the options before that. Which of the above mentioned statements are correct? Option A 1 and 2 only, option B 2 and 3 only, option C 1 and 3 only, and option D all of the above. So looking at currency swap, like I said earlier, it's a very important part of your economic preparation. This has been frequently in the news with regards to India performing currency swap operations for various needs with different countries. So one thing, the main idea itself says it's swapping of or exchanging of currencies. So let's look at the first statement. It is a transaction in which two parties exchange an equivalent amount of money with each other but in different currencies. Yes, that is a part of currency swap. The parties loaning money to each other repay the amounts in future at a specified date and exchange rate. That is also absolutely true. Third statement, it is used to borrow foreign exchange at lower interest rate. Yes, that is also exactly right. So I would say that definitely all the three statements are right in this context with regards to currency swap, and I'd go with the answer of option D, all of the above. Now let's look at the explanation. The Reserve Bank of India has signed an agreement for extending a $400 million currency swap facility to Sri Lanka to boost the foreign reserves and ensure financial stability of the country, which is badly hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the statement 1 is correct because the currency swap is a transaction in which two parties exchange an equivalent amount of money with each other but in different currencies. The second statement is also correct because the parties are essentially loaning each other money and will repay the amounts at a specified date and a fixed exchange rate. The third statement is correct because the swaps can be used to hedge against exchange risk, speculate on currency moves, and borrow foreign exchange at lower interest rates. These swap operations carry no exchange rate or other market risks as transactions terms are already set in advance. The absence of an exchange rate risk is the major benefit of such a facility. This facility provides the country which is getting the dollars with the flexibility to use these reserves at any time in order to maintain an appropriate level of balance of payments or even short-term liquidity. So it is meant to be, maintaining the balance of payments or the short-term liquidity. Don't worry about these technical terms. You'll be always learning about it. Or if you are familiar with this, definitely these are terms you would have already revised. Don't worry. Try to understand the concept. Look at the explanation, and we'll go for the next question. Question number 7. The Ministry of Rural Development uses which of the following parameters while ranking states as per the Financial Management Index for rural development programs? Statement 1, social audit. 2, expenditure on health. 3, preparation of annual plan, and 4, cleanliness, hygiene and sanitation. Which of the above mentioned statements are correct? Option A 1 and 2 only, option B 2 and 3 only, and option C 1 and 3 only, and option D 2 and 4 only. So looking at this, it talks about financial management and looks towards rural development too. So social audit is one of the very important components of rural development, and definitely I'd say that social audit is a part of it. Expenditure on health and preparation of annual plan also seem highly relevant to it, but cleanliness, hygiene and sanitation does not match much with the financial management angle. So I'd like to eliminate option 4 from this. If the option 4 is removed, you are left with option A, B, C, with option D getting eliminated. And I would definitely say that option 1 is necessary. So removal of option B is also happening. Now you are left with option A, 1 and 2 only, and option C, 1 and 3 only. So it's either the second statement is right and the third statement is wrong, or the third statement is right and the second statement is wrong. Looking at this more towards financial management, the preparation of annual plan is really necessary to manage your finances properly for rural development. Whereas the expenditure on health is not generally, while it is a core part of the rural development, it does not matter completely the the sphere of rural development, but rather it's just isolate itself to health. But the preparation of annual plan is more encompassing. It does cover the entire financial angle. So looking at that, I would go with the 50-50 choice of choosing option C, 1 and 3 only, that is social audit and preparation of annual plan, over option A, which is 1 and 2 only. Let's go for the explanation. The answer is C. The Union Ministry of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj released a financial management index for rural development programs to rank the performance of the states on base of the following parameters, that is preparation of annual plan, the projecting the requirement of the funds for the financial year, expeditious release of state share, timely utilization and submission of the utilization certificates, optimum implementation of the PFMS and direct benefit transfer, internal audit and social audit. And this performance would actually help promote the spirit of competitive cooperative federalism among the states. And this is the explanation for the financial management index for rural development programs. These are the parameters on which they are being evaluated. Hope you all understood the explanation. Let's go for the next question. Question number 8. In context of the National Commission for Backward Classes NCBC, consider the following statements. It is a permanent statutory body. Statement 2, it is composed of a chairperson and 4 members with a term of 5 years. Statement 3, its function is to consider the inclusions and exclusions from the list of communities notified as backward for the purpose of job reservations. Choose the correct code. Option A, 1 and 2 only, option B, 2 only, option C, 1 and 3 only, and option D, 3 only. So looking at this, like I said earlier, we'll be learning about what are the statutory bodies, what are the constitutional bodies. And one thing you have to notice, the NCBC was earlier a statutory body, but recently it became a constitutional body, and it was a part of our current affairs. It was there in the news, and so it has become a part of the current affairs module. So understanding this, I would say that the first statement is wrong. Remove the first statement, you are left with just two options, option B, 2 only, and option D, 3 only. So either of them is right and the other is wrong. So we need to find which is right. The third statement, its function is to consider the inclusion and exclusion from the list of communities notified as backward for the purpose of job reservation, seems right. Whereas the second statement, it's composed of a chairperson and 4 members with a term of 5 years, seems wrong with regards to the duration of the term held by the chairperson and the members. So taking that into account, I would say the option D, 3 only, is the right answer. Well, let's look at the explanation. The answer is D. Statement 1 is not correct because the Indian National Commission for Backward Classes is a constitutional body passed under the 123rd Constitutional Amendment Bill and the 102nd Constitutional Amendment and the Article 338B of the Indian Constitution under India's Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, which was established initially on 14th of August 1993. It was initially established under the National Commission for Backward Classes Act of 1993. The second statement is not correct because the commission shall consist of 1 chairman and 4 members. The chairperson will be a person who has been a judge of a Supreme Court or of a High Court. It will also have a social scientist, 2 persons who have special knowledge in matters relating to backward classes, and a member secretary who is or has been an officer of the central government in the rank of secretary to the government of India, and their term is not for 5 years but rather for 3 years. So that was the mistake in the statement. For the third statement, the commission considers inclusions in and exclusions from the list of communities notified as backward for the purpose of job reservations and tenders the needful advice to the central government as per section 9(1) of the NCBC Act of 1993. So that is the explanation for this question. Let's look at the next question. The Istanbul Convention, sometimes seen in news, is associated with which of the following? A. Promulgate a set of principles concerning the equality of men and women. B. Conservation of the snow leopard. C. Preventing and combating violence against women and domestic violence. Option D. Acts of terrorism and extremism cannot be justified. So this is an ABC type of question. It's one of the very difficult questions to answer if one does not have an idea of what exactly is the Istanbul Convention talking about. So if one does not have an idea, it's going to be really hard for us to make a quantitative judgment. So if you can make a leap of logic, or if you are prepared about this, or if you have read the newspapers consistently, you would definitely know that the option C, preventing and combating violence against women and domestic violence, is the ambit of the Istanbul Convention. Now let's look at the explanation. The answer is C. The Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence, better known as the Istanbul Convention, is a human rights treaty of the Council of Europe against violence against women and domestic violence, which was open for signature on 11th of May 2011 in Istanbul, Turkey. So understand that the Istanbul Convention deals with women, violence against women, and it is under the Council of Europe. So these are the major entities associated with the Istanbul Convention. Now let's go for the explanation. This is the explanation for this question. Let's look at the next question. Consider the following statements. Ammonia or NH3 act as a major parameter to derive the air quality index of an area. 2. Ammonia occurs naturally in the environment from the breakdown of organic waste matter. 3. Excess ammonia in drinking water causes the Itai disease. Select the correct answer using the given below code. Option A 1 and 2 only, option B 1 only, option C 2 and 3 only, and option D 3 only. So while preparing for your civil services, you will be learning about the major diseases in the world. And Itai disease is very famous because this disease is also known as the ouch disease, which is occurring because of the excess cadmium presence in the human body. So this disease came about in Japan, and this disease is actually famous, and it's known as the Itai disease. It does not come because of excess ammonia, but rather it comes because of excess cadmium. So it's a very specific disease because it occurs just due to the cadmium poisoning. So let's remove option 3, statement 3 from the options. If you remove that, you are left with option A 1 and 2 only, and option B 1 only. If you look at that, automatically statement 1 becomes correct. Let's look at statement 2. Ammonia occurs naturally in the environment from the breakdown of organic waste matter. So the second statement is actually right, because ammonia occurs in the environment by breaking down of organic matter from it is the function of the decomposers or the saprotrophs who bring down ammonia into the natural resource cycle. So the second statement is right. You will be learning about this in your environment, that ammonia occurs naturally due to the breakdown of organic waste matter. Taking this into account, I would say the option A 1 and 2 only is the right answer. So let's look at the explanation. The answer is correct. The answer is A. Statement 1 is correct because 8 pollutants, namely particulate matter PM10, PM2.5, ozone, O3, sulfur dioxide, SO2, nitrogen dioxide, NO2, carbon monoxide, CO, and lead, PB, and ammonia, NH3, act as major parameters in deriving the air quality index of an area. So please try to remember the major factors, major parameters of an air quality index. Let's look at the explanation. Just read these points, note them down somewhere, because these are the major parameters to check the air quality index of an area. The second statement is also correct because ammonia, which is a colorless gas and used as an industrial chemical in the production of fertilizer, plastic, synthetic fiber, dye, and other products, it occurs naturally in the environment from the breakdown of organic waste matter and may also find its way to the ground and surface water through industrial effluents or through contamination by sewage. So that is how ammonia enters the ground. These are the two methods. Apart from this, the third statement is not correct because excess cadmium in drinking water causes Itai disease, also called as the ouch disease, which is a painful disease of the bones and joints and cancer of lungs and liver. So that is the explanation for this question. That's the explanation for the Itai disease too. We'll go for the next question. Question number 11. Consider the following statements about the Green Growth Equity Fund. It is a sub-fund of the National Investment and Infrastructure Fund of India. It is promoted jointly by India and France to leverage private sector investment in the green infrastructure project. 3. The World Bank is the fund manager for the GGEF. Which of the above mentioned statements are correct? Option A 1 only, option B 1 and 2 only, option C 2 and 3 only, and option D 3 only. So looking at the Green Growth Equity Fund, definitely I would say the first statement is right because it is a sub-fund of the National Investment and Infrastructure Fund of India. But the second statement, it is not promoted jointly by India and France, but rather it's promoted jointly by India and UK. So taking that into account, let's remove the second statement. You remove the second statement, you are left with option A 1 only and option D 3 only. We are already sure that the first statement is right. Let's look at the third statement. The World Bank is the fund manager for GGEF. No, the World Bank is not the fund manager for this fund. The World Bank is generally the fund manager or the trustee for the climate investment funds or the CAF funds. The GGEF does not come under that specifically. So we can be assured that it's option A1 only, which is the right answer. Now let's look at the explanation. The answer is A. Statement 1 is correct because the Green Growth Equity Fund is a sub-fund of the National Investment in Infrastructure of India or NIIF. And the second statement is not correct because it is promoted jointly by India and the UK, which aims to leverage private sector investment to finance investments in the green infrastructure space in India. NIIF and UK government have committed nearly Great Britain pound of 120 million in each into the fund. The third statement is not correct because Eversource Capital, which is an equal joint venture between Everstone Group and Lightsource BP, was selected as the fund manager for GGEF following an international selection process. And Everstone Group is a premier multi-asset investment firm, and Lightsource BP is a global market leader in renewable energy development and management. So that is the explanation for this question. We'll go for the next question. In context of the Kalbeliya, consider the following statements. It is the popular folk theatre forms of Karnataka, which includes music, colorful costumes, and vigorous dance movements. The second statement, Pungi, Dufli, and Kanjari are the musical instruments that are used to create the rhythm on which the dancers perform. 3. It is included in the UNESCO's Intangible Heritage List. Choose the correct code. Option A 1 and 2 only, option B 2 only, option C 2 and 3 only, and option D 3 only. So talking about Kalbeliya, it was recently in the news for being a part of the UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage List. We'll be learning about these as part of our preparation. So I can definitely say that statement 3 is right. Looking at the options which have the statement 3 in them, we are just left with two options, which is statement option C 2 and 3 only, and option D 3 only. Automatically statement 1 becomes eliminated. And taking this into account, I can say that it is not Kalbeliya, is not a part of theatre form of Karnataka, but rather it's a theatre form of Rajasthan. And the second statement, Pungi, Dufli, and Kanjari are the musical instruments which are used to create the rhythm on which the dancers perform. So most probably the answer is option C 2 and 3 only. Now let's look at the explanation. The answer is C. Statement 1 is not correct because Kalbeliya or Kabeliya is a dance from Rajasthan performed by the tribe of the same name. Kalbeliya songs are based on stories taken from folklore and mythology, and special dances are performed during Holi. The dance is an integral part of their culture and performed by both men and women. But Yakshagana is the popular theatre form of Karnataka. It is noted for its music, colorful costumes, and vigorous dance movements. So understand, while Yakshagana is very similar to the Kalbeliya, but it is in Karnataka, and Kalbeliya is the famous theatre form of, it's the famous dance form of Rajasthan. The second statement is correct because the male participants play musical instruments such as the pungi, which is a woodwind instrument traditionally played to capture snakes, the dufli, the been, the kanjari, a percussion instrument, morchang, kuralio, and the dholak to create a rhythm on which the dancers perform. So these are the major instruments involved in the Kalbeliya dance. The third statement is also correct because in 2010, the Kalbeliya folk songs and the dances of Rajasthan were declared a part of its intangible heritage list by the UNESCO. So that is the explanation for this question. And with this, we are ending part 5A of this video. This is CB Joy signing off. Thank you.